Good evening. Welcome to the Herndon Town Council Public Session, June 12, 2018.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I apologize for my voice. My daughter was kind enough to share her cold with me, so I feel okay, but I sound terrible, so I'll do the best I can. I did want to make an announcement, a couple of comments before we get started. I hope that you'll all keep our friends at Sully's Poorhouse in your thoughts. We learned over the weekend that one of their employees, Henry Ramos, passed away tragically and unexpectedly. Also, late Saturday afternoon, a part of the building's facade on the roofline fell into the Sully's patio area. Fortunately, no one was hurt. There was no one on the patio area. But of course, the Sully's family is reeling from these couple of events. So their patrons are close-knit people. They're like a family, and I hope that you'll keep them in your thoughts. And Mr. Town Manager, do you have any update on the situation with the building?
Madam Mayor, just from this perspective, the town is focused on public safety. That's why the area around it is fenced off. It's truly a private matter with the private building owner and the private tenants and the condo association and the condo owners. I'm sure they are working diligently to get that situation rectified. As a matter of fact, if you walk by it, as I did today, they've already cleared the alleyway between the two buildings. That debris has been moved. So right now, we're just focused on public safety, and hopefully we can get it resolved quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have several sets of minutes up for approval. Is there a motion to approve the May 8th public hearing minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the May 15th work session minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the May 22nd public hearing minutes?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? And finally, is there a motion to approve last week's work session minutes, June 5th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you. We have a couple of presentations this evening. I am pleased that the town is once again proclaiming June 2018 Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month, and I will recognize Vice Mayor Baker to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A Town of Herndon proclamation recognizing lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 2018. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans have made and continue to make great and lasting contributions that strengthen the fabric of American society. LGBTQ individuals come from all religions, ethnicities, regions, backgrounds, and socioeconomic statuses, and contribute greatly to our community across all professions and family structures. The nature of that intersectionality further enriches us all with enhanced awareness of and appreciation for the diversity that makes our community more vibrant, more welcoming, and more American. However, we are reminded that we are not truly equal until every person has the same rights and opportunities. All people deserve to live with dignity and respect, free from fear and violence, and protected against discrimination. For more than 2 centuries, our nation has struggled to transform the ideals of liberty and equality from founding promise into lasting reality. LGBTQ Americans have worked tirelessly on the next chapter of that history, from the patrons of the Stonewall Inn, who sparked a movement, to service members who can be honest about who they love, to marriage equality, to brave young people who come out and speak out every day. Each day, support for LGBTQ equality is growing, led by a generation who understands that, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Therefore, the mayor and the town council of the town of Herndon, Virginia, hereby proclaim the month of June 2018 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. Recognize the difficulties and prejudice that the LGBTQ community has worked to overcome. Encourage the work of advocates who dedicate their time and efforts to the equality of all persons. Recognize the impact that LGBTQ individuals have on our community. Commit to standing in solidarity with the LGBTQ community in the pursuit to eliminate prejudice everywhere. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Comments from council,
Yes,
Madam Vice Mayor.
Absolutely. So thank you again for the honor to get to read that proclamation. I know when Councilmember Cunningham requested that we do this proclamation several years ago, it's been great to have been able to keep that tradition. And I know as we certainly, things are getting better. We are seeing progress, but we still have a long ways to go. We still, in the state of Virginia, have discriminatory housing policies, right? We still have reasons to make sure that we are acknowledging these important members of our families, of our communities, of our neighborhoods, of our colleagues at work. And until my favorite quote of the proclamation, we're reminded that we're not truly equal until every person has the same rights and opportunities. I'm a member of the board of an organization called Service Never Sleeps. And the purpose of that organization is to advocate in allyship. So it's about advocating from your place of privilege for those, from your unique place of privilege. So for example, as a feminist, I can go out and speak about being a feminist and advocate for equal pay for women, but until a man also advocates and stands in allyship with me, that makes that much stronger. Right? That we both need to be united in that mission, that we all need to be treated equal, that it's not just women that need to come say that it's not just our LGBTQ community members that need to say that. It's me, from my position as a heterosexual person, that I need to stand in allyship and in friendship with those members of that community as well. Right? It's me as a white person standing with my friend who's a person of color, that we need to look at that in terms of our allyship and what we all have to give and how we should all be supporting each other. Because again, we are not truly equal until we all see that everyone's rights and are protected and that you can't be discriminated against legally, and we still have a ways to go in Virginia and across the country. So thank you again for the honor to read the proclamation tonight.
Thank you. Other comments from council? Ms. Friedrichs.
Good evening. Tonight we take the opportunity to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of the Herndon LGBTQ plus community. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight, and I want to thank you for all you contribute to our community, both your friends, and your allies. You are our friends, you are our relatives, you are our mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, and best friends, and much more. You are our doctors and lawyers and bakers and real estate agents and contractors and bartenders and musicians and every job there is out there. And most of all, you are yourselves. You are sometimes kind and sometimes cranky. You're artistic. You are music loving. You are sports mad. You are family oriented or not family oriented. You volunteer. You love animals. And every one of you deserves to be recognized for what you do for the community and to be thanked for that. So thank you. I am so glad you are here. We would be poorer without you. And in this time of cruelty and unkindness, let's all treat each other with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from council? Mr. McKenna.
I studied political science in college and used to read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence ad nauseum because I truly believed in it. And the Constitution is obviously the heart of the country, but the soul is the Declaration of Independence. And I think the most important part of the entire thing is the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, which states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by the Creator and certain unalienable rights that all men are that they're unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Unalienable rights. Right? That was a word that they struggled with because they wanted it to be known that everyone has the right to breathe free. And I also find it amazing that it's the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, because just like this country, we've had our struggles and everything else. So the first paragraph kind of sets everything up. We've had some time to make mistakes and do things, and we're trying to get it right. And I think the second paragraph states that so well. And it's for all people. And I'm proud to be part of this dais and the proclamation, and to let everyone know that Herndon is a hometown for everybody. I actually saw Mr. Rogers, Won't You Be My Neighbor, this weekend, and I can tell you that everything that man stood for, everything in that movie really rings true in regards to how we should be to each other. Be kind, accepting, lend a hand, and be there for if everyone needs you. So thank you for letting me be up here tonight, and thank you for being here. Truly appreciate it, and know that you have a friend here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Cunningham, followed by Ms. Olam.
Thank you. It was my honor to request this proclamation several years ago, because unfortunately we live in a time where people forget that if we were all blind and we saw each other with our inner eyes and our inner hearts, we're really more the same than we are different. And we need to focus on what brings us together, what makes us human, what makes us parents, what makes us friends, what makes us colleagues, what makes us contribute to our community, what makes us walk away from our community. We have more in common with everybody if you just close your eyes and you listen with your heart. And so I encourage you, now if you close your eyes and listen with your heart, you will miss our fabulous ROYGBV outfits on the dais, which we have tried to coordinate for a number of years. We're getting
I don't
there.
have anything yellow.
Somebody doesn't have anything yellow, but that's okay. We'll move yellow around next year. It's fine. But
I brought them all.
I'm always reminded when people stop pointing fingers and yelling names and sit down and actually talk with each other, we're all the same. White, black, male, female. We get up every day. We strive to make contributions. We strive to take care of our family. We fight for the issues that are near and dear to our hearts. So make sure you remember that, because we're all here on this little blue planet together, and we should all get along, and love is love. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Olam.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad we are doing this proclamation again. Of course, one of these days, wouldn't it be nice that we don't have to do proclamations about various things for women, for the LBG community, for people of color, for immigrants, first-generation families, etc. But we do need to remind ourselves that we do need to embrace everyone. And I'm just so glad we have such a great community here in Herndon that we don't have to worry about this as much as you do in some communities. So I think we have a great accepting community. Maybe it's the minor in drama in me, because we had so many colorful people in drama. But I'm so glad that we've done this once again, and so glad you're all here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Delegate Jennifer Boysko sent me a note with her apology. She is attending Herndon High School's graduation this evening and was unable to be here, but she sends her regards and certainly supports this proclamation. I wanted to give a shout out to some of our businesses here in the town. There's an initiative, it's a website called virginiafairness.org, and they have an initiative called Equality Means Business. And businesses can sign on across Virginia, just simply stating that their business is open for business for everyone, and everyone that walks in their doors will be treated the same and will be treated with grace. And I am pleased that so many Herndon businesses have already signed on it, to include 100 Bowls of Soup, Art Space Herndon, Eldon Street Tea Shop, Escape Room Herndon, HealthWorks for Northern Virginia, Meg Donnelly, licensed massage therapist who we just did a ribbon cutting for, and Soulful Orthotic Solutions, and that's just a few of them. So I would encourage more and more of our businesses. All you have to do is click on the website. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to do anything. You're just stating that everyone is welcome. You know, if you've, I also want to commend my colleagues. It is so great to be sitting at a dais where everyone on the dais supports this proclamation, and I'm thrilled to be a part of such a welcoming group here at the front. I don't inject the town into national issues. If you've been around me for a while, you know that that is not something I do, and I don't sign pledges. But I have signed one pledge in my life since I've been an elected official, and that was Mayors for Marriage Equality. Because to me, that wasn't a national issue. That was a human issue, and there is no argument that anyone could tell me why that should not be so. So I am grateful that so many of you are here. It's a smaller crowd than usual, but I think that's kind of a good thing because it used to be a big deal that we were doing this, and it is still important, but I think that our residents are coming to expect that this is the type of community that you live in, and so I'm grateful to see so many friends, people I know here, and you are welcome here. This is a hometown for everyone, and this council believes that wholeheartedly, and we are standing with you as allies. Is there anyone here from Nova Pride or Dulles Triangles that would like to come forward and speak? Come on down. You guys have changed around. I wasn't sure who was who. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
I'm Pamela Larson. I'm the Vice President of Dulles Triangles. I've always found Herndon to be very accepting, and I'd like to thank the council for your leadership and being a role model that hopefully soon the rest of the country will follow. So thank you for this. It's very meaningful.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak about this proclamation? No. Well, thank you for being here again. I do have to tell you, this boa I got at the San Francisco Pride Parade, and it was 3 days after marriage equality was upheld by the Supreme Court. We happened to be out there for another reason, and we went to the Pride Parade, and it was the most joyful, family-friendly, 6-hour-long parade I'd ever been to, and so this is my souvenir, so I brought it this evening. I would like to invite down the entire town council, the town manager and town attorney, members of Nova Pride, members of the community that would like to come forward and show your support for our LGBTQ community. We'd love you to join us for the proclamation or for the presentation. Thank you. Next up, we have a proclamation to recognize National Parks and Recreation Month, and I'll recognize Councilmember Cunningham to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A Town of Herndon proclamation recognizing National Parks and Recreation Month, July 2018. Since 1985, the National Recreation and Park Association, the NRPA, has designated July as the month to recognize parks and recreation worldwide. This year's theme, A Lifetime of Discovery, focuses on exploring the undiscovered roles of local parks and recreation. Locally, the Town of Herndon Parks and Recreation Department's mission is to provide opportunities for community members to develop skills focusing on youth development, active aging adults, leisure exploration, innovative health and wellness opportunities, community celebrations, outdoor education, environmental stewardship, and more. The town of Herndon recognizes that the town's diverse and accessible recreational amenities are vitally important to establishing and maintaining quality of life for our residents, and that these programs fulfill the physical, psychological, and social needs of our entire community, from our youngest children to our oldest adults. In July and throughout the year, residents are encouraged to participate in outdoor activities, connect with nature, family and friends, and discover new ways to have fun in our community. The dedication of the nationally renowned Town of Herndon Department of Parks and Recreation staff and volunteers contributes to the success of top-quality events and programs, including Summer Camp for all ages, the Labor Day Festival, Nature Fest, 4th of July celebration, Holiday Arts and Crafts Show, Kids Triathlon, Herndon Olympics and Harvest Moon swim meets, Turkey Trot, and, of course, the Herndon Festival. Therefore, the Mayor and the Town Council of Town of Herndon, Virginia, thereby proclaim the month of July 2018 as National Parks and Recreation Month in the Town of Herndon, and encourage all residents to take the opportunity to redefine how they think about parks and recreation to uncover a lifetime of discovery. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Comments from council. Ms. Cunningham.
It's been my pleasure to have been a customer and a patron of the Parks and Recs Department for the 20 years I have lived here. My daughter has enjoyed many of the activities and learned to swim, forgotten how to swim, is going to relearn how to swim this summer. But if you have not availed yourself of the community center, the many parks, the trails, the soccer field, the skate park, the golf course, the tennis bubble, I could go on. Please do. It's one of the things that make living in Herndon really special and really easy for literally families. You just walk out your door and you've got a park within a quarter mile, and there's always something going on. I've had the pleasure of working with Parks and Recs on the executive committee of the Herndon Festival for 12 years, and they're just superb. They are really dedicated to the quality of life and the health of every resident. So it's my honor and my gratitude. Hats off to Parks and Recs.
Thank you. Who else would like to make a comment? Ms. Olam.
If you're a young parent or a grandparent with grandkids visiting, Parks and Recs has one of the best children's programs in the summer called Summer Fun, and then they have one for teenagers called Teen Discovery. Those are just awesome things, and for the price and the activities that the children get to do, you just can't beat it. And even if you're not working but you need a break from your kids, just put them in for 2 weeks. It's a great deal. My kids thoroughly enjoyed it, and then my older son, a lot of his friends that went through it themselves ended up being counselors. So my younger son enjoyed seeing all of his big brother's buddies being the counselors at Summer Fun. So it's a great way to get the community connected as well.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. Friedrichs.
I guess, illuminate some things that have been mentioned. Some of you who know me know that my mom is disabled. She's in an electric wheelchair, and it never occurred to me that we could use the facilities at the community center. But in fact, they have a wheelchair that can wheel people into the pool. They have a plastic wheelchair that they can do that with. So tomorrow, my mom has insisted that we're going to go swimming, which she hasn't done in about 5 years. So we are incredibly fortunate. I mean, when you have a disabled loved one, it's hard to express how hard it is every time you try to do something that will make their life fun and enjoyable. And this is a huge, huge bonus of living in this town. So thank you so much, Cindy and Parks and Rec, for all that you do. It's so important.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Baker.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to add to that. I mean, I think all the comments that have been said, that we are really fortunate, and hopefully I know so many of us do take advantage of all the resources and what's available to us with the leadership of our Parks and Rec department. I think the WNOD Trail, of course, is also such a bonus within town. I think the mayor, I love your phrase when you talk about it as our other main street in town. I can tell you as someone who lives on the WNOD Trail, it's a really busy street in town, particularly as the summer months happen and you see more bikers and cyclists. So I also just read a stat just this morning. I was talking with colleagues, and they said only about 10% of adults exercise on a regular basis. So I challenge everyone in Herndon. I'm convinced our numbers are higher than that, but let's make sure we're taking advantage of our Parks and Recs department.
Thank you. I concur with my colleagues, and in the interest of saving my voice, I'm going to go ahead and call us down for the presentation. I'd like to invite everyone from the dais and Cindy Roeder and any Parks and Rec staff that would like to come down, and then Cindy will have some remarks for us. Would you like to wear it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council, for this recognition. We greatly appreciate it. They sent me here on my own tonight because we've had a lot of weekends and a lot of nights. We have Herndon Summer Fun is now called Herndon Odyssey, Sheila, but parent meeting is tomorrow night. Staff orientation is going on, so everyone is really busy right now. This is a busy time. But you articulated very well a lot of the amenities and the programs that we have in town. We're fortunate to have the support of a council like you who funds our programs, supports our programs, attends our programs, and encourages others to be there. It would not be nearly as successful if it wasn't for your support. Coming up this summer, we've started a lot of new activities in the summer in the downtown, including every Saturday will be a family games morning in July. July 4th celebration, which is going to be our big celebration of the year this year because the Herndon Festival was just not what it was supposed to be. So July 4th, Wednesday night, big celebration at Brady Park, including fireworks. So I hope folks will come out for that. And this coming Saturday, Art Space Herndon has their Lights Festival, and the Parks and Recreation Department is doing a free movie on the green, Despicable Me 3. So celebrating kind of the end of the school year. So lots going on, lots of opportunities. We appreciate all the support from the town. We appreciate our corporate partners who help us with cleanups and invasive plant removal, and we appreciate all the volunteers who come out and support everything we do. So thank you again for recognizing Parks and Recreation Month.
Thank you. That brings us to comments. Mr. Town Manager, do you have any comments for us?
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Friedrichs.
I had the opportunity to attend the Cinnamon Tree Grand Reopening with the mayor and I believe Councilmember McKenna. No, sorry. We also managed to dedicate a flagpole at Haley Smith Park. The Herndon Youth Baseball group helped raise money for that, so thank you to them. Also wanted to do a shout out to Nancy Rose, who is the intrepid filmer of town council meetings. She had a great party this weekend for all of her volunteers, including Blake Rose, Charlie Waddell, who was a former council member, and all of an incredible group of volunteers. Councilmember Olam, Councilmember McKenna, and Councilmember Cunningham all were there. Councilmember Cunningham had an opportunity to practice her Photoshop skills, and she did a great job. Today is not only the day that we proclaim Pride Month, but it's also the anniversary of Loving Day. On June 12, 1967, the Supreme Court case Loving versus Virginia made it possible for interracial relationships to be legal and out in the open. And I think that's a good thing to celebrate on a day like today when we're talking about pride, because love is love, and it is important. And the fact that Virginia was so behind and became so ahead is a wonderful thing, too, also. I also wanted to thank the nonprofit volunteers at Festival, because the festival was more or less rained out, and the nonprofit volunteers do a lot of work for the town, sometimes out of the love of their hearts, and sometimes it's one of the biggest funders of the year. So if you are familiar with any of these nonprofit groups and would like to, I hope you will donate to them, because they did not make a lot of money at Festival. A Forever Home Rescue Foundation, Airbus, that's not a nonprofit, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, Arts Herndon, which did both the beer and the hands-on art tent, Boy Scouts of America, Troop 157, Cameron Parish DAR, Epsilon Delta, Jeff Smith Mile High Karate, the Girl Scouts Council of the Nation's Capital, the Herndon Civil Air Patrol, the Herndon Masonic Lodge, the Herndon Women's Club, the Holy Cross Lutheran Church, Jamber, the Optimist Club, the Reston Lions Club, St. Joseph's Hispanic Youth Group, and many, many more. I would read them all to you, but other people probably want to say something too. School will be out in the next few days. I hope you enjoy your summer, and happy Eid to those who celebrate this Friday. Also want to do a shout out to two Herndon businesses, the Soliloquy Bridal in Herndon and the Green Lizard. Both received Reader's Choice Awards from the Nova magazine, which is on newsstands now. The Green Lizard is the best bike repair shop in Nova. I think we all knew that. And the best bike shop. And Miriam Liggett and Tony Liggett's business, Soliloquy Bridal, is the best bridal shop and the best bridesmaid dresses. So congratulations to them, and I hope you will get the magazine, check it out, and support our local businesses. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Olam.
So at our last council meeting, an individual came forward concerned about the speed on Spring Street, and the neighbors were thrilled to see that the little speed monitor was put up. So if you're back there listening, be sure and tell the chief they were thrilled that showed up after they said brought those things up, because it's a 25 mile an hour, but frequently people are going 40, and it's a very small road with no curb or gutter even. Also, if you're a father, grandfather, or like me, you got to be both. Father's Day's coming up on Sunday. Remember those people. And Next Stop Theater has an absolutely provocative show called Bad Jews, and it takes place after a funeral, and all the youthful folks in this family are hanging out together and battling over who's the best Jew. It's really quite humorous, and it doesn't matter what religion you are, you're going to identify with this piece of work that they've done. And let's see, the HCTV thing was great. It was a reception at Jimmy's, so an open house, and also Rotary lost money at the festival, and we're both members. So I want to give the Herndon Rotary a shout out, because they do a lot. In fact, many of you know about the Imagination Library that they do every year. So we're going to really have to pick up the slack, try to raise some more money to take care of that. I see Mr. Downer out there. I think we were sending out 1,400 books this month. Is that right, to the 2 zip codes? 1,500 individual children are getting books on a monthly basis. So it takes a lot of money to do that, and I'm glad to be a part of an organization that cares that much about literacy in our community.
Thank you. Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, just a couple things. To go along with the Herndon Optimists, the President, Sherry Zimmerman, is actually stepping down. She's been there for years and years. Her children are in their 20s, and she was still president. I believe that I'll believe it when I see it. She's a true dynamo. She just keeps doing it every year. She says this year she's going to retire, but this one is supposedly definite, but I do want to give her congratulations and thank her for all her work with that organization. I want to thank the Montessori Country School for their open house on Saturday. Thank you to Vice Mayor for being over there. And it was an open house for all the students there, but what was really cool too was Officer Choi was there representing the Herndon Police. He was making sure everyone that had child safety seats, he was doing a free check and making sure that they were secure because there's some stat, I believe it's 70% of all child CFD seats are incorrectly put into the cars, which lead to a lot of accidents and bad things. So just glad that they were there, and a lot of people took advantage of that. So thank you to the Herndon Police for being there and helping out with that. Tomorrow, meeting with the representation from Fairfax County at Harbor House. The Herndon Youth Advisory Council has gotten together, and they want to start a buddy program with them over there. So I'm meeting with them in regards to setting that up so we can bring that together. So I'm excited about that. And then on Thursday at 7, the Herndon Youth Advisory Council is meeting. We'll be meeting here. So if you want to see young democracy in action, feel free to come on down. It's great. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you. It's been a busy week for all of us. I'd also like to thank HCTV and congratulate them for a wonderful volunteer party. They are really an outstanding community asset, and if you haven't taken the time to look at HCTV, they're Channel 23. You can find them at hctv.org, also on Facebook and on Instagram, and they just have a wonderful group of volunteers. They provide a lot of programming, and of course they provide a lot of civic service by broadcasting our town council meetings. So thank you to HCTV. Also wanted to note 2 holidays coming up. As Councilmember Ola mentioned, this Thursday is the end of Ramadan, and we'll be celebrating Eid on Friday. Next Tuesday will be Juneteenth, which is the date that slavery was actually effectively abolished within the United States. Tomorrow I will be off to Richmond for the year-end meeting of the Virginia Commission for the Arts. I am your District 11 Commissioner. We will be allocating making the final decision on all the grant applications for the $2.2 million that the state gives to art organizations across the Commonwealth. And our area is Area 4B, and we have one of the highest concentrations of arts groups, so we're very lucky to receive a lot of that, and I'll be sure to be advocating for money for our arts groups. Last but not least, I want to shout out to WCVE. It's the PBS and NPR affiliate located in Richmond. They are doing a series of interviews in July featuring Faces of America, and they selected me to be on there, so I'll be happy to be promoting Herndon and how wonderful our community is as a Face of America in July. So look for WCVE Instagram posts this summer.
Oh, thank you. Madam Vice Mayor.
So just a few things I'm going to add. I know Cindy mentioned this, but I think these are just fun events this weekend. On July 16th, this Saturday night, the Glow Party at Art Space.
June 16th.
Or June. I don't know why I just said July. June 16th. I'm ahead of myself. I don't know that they've ever done this before, but it looks super cool. So check that out. I encourage folks to come. I think it's at 7 o'clock on Saturday night. And, of course, then you can go to the movie on the Green right after that. So a fun weekend, of course, starting with Friday Night Live. And then July 4th, make sure you're there. I know a lot of folks wanted more fireworks. There will be fireworks. We'll be all excited. Mm-hmm. So fireworks, of course, and it's the middle of the week, right? So you're not going to take off. You're just going to have that day off. Just go enjoy. Stay in Herndon. Go and enjoy the fireworks that night. I want to add to what Mr. McKenna said about the Montessori school. So we're really lucky in Herndon to have several Montessori schools within the town proper, not to mention a few more in the greater Herndon area. So this was the one on Alabama Street, the Montessori Country Day School. It's the oldest one in the town, so it's been there since 1971. And they have the capacity for about 80 students, and it's students from essentially two years old or so through a kindergarten program. One of the really cool parts about this Saturday, not only the open house and just seeing that, was also the fact that they celebrated one of their teachers, Dottie Wilson. So Dottie has been a teacher there for 40 years, and they named the vegetable garden after her. And what I didn't realize after talking to her, and she's wheeling around her great-grandson, is that her daughter-in-law is Carrie Wilson, who many of us know as the executive director of Cornerstones. So small world, and a small world particularly with folks that are really focused on service and helping others and serving others. So we are lucky to have both the Montessori School and Dottie Wilson in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I apologize. My voice is fading. Fortunately, everybody has said almost everything that was on my list. I did want to point out that we only have, this is our only public hearing in June, so we'll see you again on July 3rd and July 10th for our July meetings. I missed the Montessori and the HCTV and the baseball closing ceremonies because soccer has taken over our life, and with all the rain, we keep having makeup games. We keep thinking it's over, but now it is finally over, so I will get to go to events once again. But I thank you all for representing us so well. And keep your eye out for the June 15th Washington Business Journal. There's supposed to be an article in there all about the Herndon Metro and Downtown Redevelopment Project. So that was when they were aiming, so keep your eye out. This is the portion of the agenda for comments from the audience. We invite you forward to speak on any item that's not a public hearing, or if it is one of our general items, that would be an appropriate time. You have up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, and when the red light comes on, try to wrap up. Mr. Mitchell. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Steve Mitchell, 1291 Monroe Street. I just want to add a little clarity to, I think some of you all know that I'm one of the condo owners of 754 Eldon, and it was a tragic event, and we are so blessed that there wasn't any more than material damage. It's just phenomenal.
It's a miracle.
And I would especially like to offer my gratitude to the town providing their services to help make this site safe. And I'm aware that the condo association and the management company are in full discussions with structural engineers, trying to come up with a plan to see how we're moving forward to the best of everyone's ability, and to open not only the Sully's, but all of the businesses, because they're all important. And there's been a big disruption, obviously, and everything. So time is of the essence, but safety comes first, and we're in the process of doing all that. So thank you, and thank you for the town and the town services. And I can't say so much about the building official, Mr. John Orson, Johnny Johnson from Public Works, and I think I can't think of his name right now.
Jimmy Linton.
Jimmy, yeah. and Garvin.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming forward. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, Town Council, good evening. My name is Stephen McWilliams, and I live at 800 Vine Street in the Historic District. I want to congratulate the council and all those who've worked so hard to bring the downtown redevelopment to the cusp of execution. I'm really excited about the downtown master plan and all the work that has gone into it. Over the past few months, I've taken a keen interest in learning about the town's history and our historic buildings. I've also realized that we have lost many of our historic buildings over the years, such as due to the Great Fire of 1917. On the proposed redevelopment site is a historic structure, which is 770 Eldon Street, also known as the old Subaru dealership. As I understand, this building's future will be discussed by HPRB over the next week. Although I know the development plans are in process, I would like the Town Council, HPRB, and Comstock to consider whether this structure could feasibly fit into the downtown redevelopment as it's part of our town's history. I could see it being a year-round farmer's market or a public market like Eastern Market, and be a second mainstay in our revitalized downtown in addition to the new Arts Center. I certainly understand that some people may not see the aesthetic value of 770 Eldon Street right now, given its state of deterioration. However, all historic buildings enter that process at some point, as we have seen with historic homes on Eldon Street that have been subsequently revitalized. I believe that with the right renovations and Comstock's partnership, this building could be revitalized and be a positive tax revenue base for the town. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Mr. Munt, followed by Mr. Downer.
Hi, Steve Munt from 814 Locust Street. I want to thank the town for the display, basically from the time of the festival all the way through the 4th of July, of the U.S. flag. One of the days that we did not mention on the dais is this Thursday, which is National Flag Day. And so I encourage everybody to fly their flag. I would also ask the town council and the town manager, if you can look at the U.S. flags that we fly on the Eldon Street, maybe if we put some lead weights or something in, but what you'll notice is that they're getting blown up and tangled up in the wire. And there's some other modifications that can be made. So if you do that, thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Downer.
Richard Downer at 815 Branch Drive, apartment, condo number 308. Just like to I was at the last work session, and the information on the Smart Cities project came up, and I just want to compliment all of you on your vision on that matter, and the town staff who I assume has brought this forward. And hopefully the town manager will give a little bit. My wife asked me about it and had a question about and I said, well, let's see if we can get some explanation when this comes up on the agenda. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. We're very excited about it. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak on any item that's not one of our public hearing items? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Stephen Mitchell. I reside at 811 Eldon Street, Herndon, Virginia, 20170. I'm here tonight to comment on the two current applications to be heard by the HPRB on Monday, June 18th of this year. HPRB applications number 1815 and 1816 speak to the request for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the existing structures located at 750 Center Street and 770 Eldon Street, respectively. In regards to Eldon Street, this is a contributing structure that contributes to the architectural past and heritage of the town of Herndon. It can be found on the United States Department of the Interior's National Park Services Register of National Historic Places. The staff's comments on HPRB 1816 speak to the recommendation to defer this item until the applicant has addressed the 10 items on page 130 and 131 of the Preservation Handbook. To start, I'd like to highlight that the second item out of these 10 states that the consideration of whether or not the building or structure is of such interest it would qualify as a national landmark or building or structure. However, it says, as well as all other appropriate matters. To me, I find it to be appropriate to address the fact that setting the precedence of demolishing any building in this district is a threat to this district today and every day moving forward. But beyond that, I do want to bring to the council's attention that per section 2849.6 of the Heritage Preservation Handbook, titled Procedure for Obtaining a Certificate of Appropriateness, it states that the application shall be made by the owner or the owner's agent. Nowhere that I found in the handbook allowed for a certificate of appropriateness to be applied for by a person, entity, or their agent other than that of the owner or someone that's currently under contract. As you all will see and that you all know, the owner of this property is the town of Herndon. However, the applicant is David Bryant, the agent for Comstock Companies, not the agent for the town of Herndon. Therefore, the application should be denied if heard, or simply, it could be removed from the agenda. Ultimately, I believe the town of Herndon should set the example for the owners of the HPRB and move forward in the correct manner and the most transparent manner possible. I appreciate your all's time tonight and hope you have a great week.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on any item that's not a public hearing item? Okay, thank you. We will move to the first public hearing, which is Ordinance 18017, to amend several sections of Chapter 74, Utilities, to increase the usage charges for sanitary sewer and water. I'll open the public hearing and call on Jenny Tripley, our Director of Finance, for the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This public hearing is for a proposed increase to the water and sewer rates. This is in line with the analysis that we did with the financial advisors back in late calendar 2017. The first rate increase went into effect in January. This is the rate increase for fiscal 19. And with the new process, we will take a look at every year and have a rolling 5-year projection. And so we'll take a look as fiscal year 19 unfolds, and we'll be back next year, for a proposed rate increase if we think we need one. Having a process like this in place is a best practice, and it is something that highly rated utilities do. And so we are proposing a 3% water rate increase and a 7% sewer rate increase, which is an average 5% increase to your quarterly bill. This ordinance also adds a section to codify the sewer credit for pool fills that the town has offered for a long time but didn't reference the proper section of the code. The slide that you can see up here shows the rates of our surrounding jurisdictions, and at the very bottom you can see Herndon at the current rate structure and then at the proposed rate structure. Even with these rate increases, our bills are still the lowest in the region. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Tripoli? Ms. Friedrichs?
Can you explain the pool credit? What is that?
Yes. So for private pools, if people fill with their pools from May, I think it's before the last Friday in May, the town is offered a sewer credit for that fill because sewer and water are metered through the same meter, and so ostensibly that water doesn't end up in the sewer system, and so the town has offered that credit. It's not high dollars at all, but this just codifies it. The credit that has been offered referenced the wrong section of the code, and so this corrects that.
So they get a slightly lower fee for filling up the pool, is what you're saying?
They get a credit on their sewer bills for that fill.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions for staff? No. Okay. Thank you. So this is a public hearing, so I'll call on comments from the audience. Once again, you have up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record. Mr. Mitchell.
(1291) Monroe Street, Herndon, Virginia. In listening to the presentation on the sewer and water, I'm very familiar with the water and sewer utility costs and stuff, and I assume every so often we go through, do we need to buy more capacity? And I don't know where we are at that capacity level today or not, and I also understand a lot about that. But it kind of surprised me in listening to the presentation that the reason and justification for the rate hike was because we're still not as high as everybody else. I saw no supporting documents as the cost, what it's costing us to run our system, how's our leak detection programs doing, all of these types of things. That analysis should be done. I'm sure it has been done, and I would just ask that presentation be part of the public presentation so that we as a community understand better how our dollars are being spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to come forward and speak on this item? I knew if I waited long enough. No, come on down.
Basically, all I was going to say, okay, Steve Munt, 814 Locust Street.
You're still the
Madam
same
Mayor,
guy.
Town Council. No, I had the same concern. When the only chart I saw was a comparative chart of the rate as compared to others. That, to me, is not a justification for raising anything. I mean, you ought to be very proud of that. You know, that if you're the lowest, you're doing something really, really good. But there also ought to be a long-term plan about how are we extending our facilities as the metro comes in, as the water usage goes up, and all the rest of that. That ought to be laid out in such a fashion that the citizens understand, yeah, this is the need. How are we doing on that projection, and how are we going to meet those ends in the long term? And the other reason for the pool credit is because if you do it in May, you're before you get into the high water usage months, which helps everybody. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I may address the questions, back in 2017, there was a very lengthy presentation done at a work session that does actually have the model and all of the justification. So I apologize that I was a bit unclear. The reason for the rate increases is not because we're the lowest. It is because we are contemplating a lot of growth in the system. We do have an aging system that does require a fair amount of maintenance, and that has to come from usage fees. Maintenance cannot come from availability fees. Availability fees pay for growth. And the overall structure of the rates hadn't really been looked at comprehensively for a very long time, and so that presentation is available, and I'd be very happy to provide it to anyone. I guess if folks would like to email the town clerk, we can get that to you. But absolutely, so there is a lot of thought and a plan for looking at it, and looking at expenditures, and looking at maintenance, and looking at timing, because you're right, there are capacity purchases coming up, one in the very near term and then one kind of down the pike. Thank you. Can we ask the town clerk, or can the town clerk make sure we send that information to Mr. Munt and Mr. Mitchell, who asked for it, and maybe we can attach it. I don't know if it's possible to attach it to Granicus as well for the general public, but if it is possible, we'll look into that, because your point is well taken. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this public hearing item? Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing and move to council level for discussion and action. Ms. Cunningham.
Madam Mayor, I'll move ordinance 18017.
Okay, we have a motion to approve made by Ms. Cunningham, seconded by Ms. Friedrichs. Discussion on the motion.
Just to echo our finance director's remarks, that work session was particularly lengthy, and the consultants we hired to do this comprehensive look at our water and sewer really looked at it very comprehensively. And we have, as our finance director said, we have not done a comprehensive review of our current capacity as well as our anticipated future capacity, which led to a significant amount of modeling for the availability fees. And maintenance had been done kind of on an as-needed basis, as opposed to comprehensively, where we were planning ahead with putting aside money into more of a more proactive manner to replace, reline, and do leak repairs, replace the meters. So instead of doing things on a more ad hoc basis, this new rate structure will allow us to be more proactive, which over the long term will keep our water rates lower, because we're not going to be reacting to so many issues, and not having to find emergency funding for issues as they come up. We'll be more proactive about replacing, maintaining, and relining a lot of our water and sewer. So I think in the long run, we looked at this and said that's a good investment now. And so I'm very pleased with the amount of effort. It's been almost a year and a half of work by both finance, our external consultants, and DPW on this project. And I'm really pleased. I think it's going to really protect the taxpayers as well as the quality of our water system going forward.
Thank you. Ms. Friedrichs, followed by, or did you have a comment? You were the seconder, that's why I called. If not, that's fine.
As Councilmember Cunningham just said, we spent a lot of time working on this, and our staff spent so much time working on this. We are very well aware that the cost of water is going to increase for us, and we need to keep an eye on maintenance. We need to keep an eye on supply, and I am incredibly impressed with the comprehensive job Jenny is doing, Ms. Tripoli is doing with overhauling and looking at things that haven't really needed to be looked at for a while, and now they really do. So thank you so much, Jenny.
Mr. McKenna.
I really appreciate Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Munt's comments. Again, I came at it from for all intents purposes, water is a commodity. And obviously we have the capacity issues, and obviously some things in regards to building the infrastructure. But the price of water right now, we're blessed in this area. Anywhere in the Northeast down to the Mid-Atlantic, the water tables are rather good. Or if you look at places like on the West Coast, not saying we're going to be there, but you have the Colorado River is basically like eBay. You have people, paying out the nose for water rights. And we're lucky right now, and to buffer something like this will help from the deviation of a spike if something should happen, whether it's a weather situation or one of the facilities goes down. We'll be able to at least have a buffer so we can take care of that. I had a situation back in 1998, my first year on town council. We had 3 feet of water downtown. Elizabethtown Water Company was out of commission for 3 months. And water prices, we were being gouged, and we didn't plan ahead, and those things happened, and next thing you know, our heads were on a stake. So to have the ability to look ahead and understand not just capacity, but where's water going as a commodity, because right now it is, I think, warrants us to buffer ourselves a little bit and give us a little safety and security. And again, I thank Jenny and the financial staff as well as staff as well. But anything that needs to be done, we can definitely at least give you the backing documentation on that, because I'm very comfortable with this. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Olam.
Yes, we did have a thorough vetting of what was going on, and that we can't provide water at subsidized rates. So we did have to do something when the study was done. But I believe it's been about 2 years, a very painful 2 years, when it took about a year to take care of all the water lines close to my home, down off of Old Spring Street, down from the fire station. And I know that the town slowly goes around the town repairing these things, because if you're in the neighborhoods that are older, then those pipes are older. So we're very fortunate that we don't wait until they fall apart as well, that we are always out there maintaining. They're even so on it that prior to our having the repairs, we would find pools of water in the street, and the staff found out that we had leaks in those pipes. So Public Works does a great job with that, and it's just something that we've got to do because the cost has gone up. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, thank you. You'll notice a theme in a lot of things that we're doing with our with some change in leadership in our finance department, and with our town manager. We're trying to get into a methodical approach of doing these things on a regular rolling basis, so that there are no surprises and we're able to plan well for the future. So I appreciate the work that's gone into all of this. And if there's no further discussion, I will call the question on the motion made by Councilmember Cunningham, seconded by Councilmember Friedrichs. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next up is Ordinance 18018 to authorize the issuance of general obligation public improvement bonds to finance the acquisition of fleet vehicles, and Resolution 18G30 to award the financing. I'll open the public hearing, and it's the Jenny Tripoli show once again.
Yes, it is. As the mayor stated, this is both an ordinance and a resolution. It's an ordinance authorizing the issuance of up to $1 million in general obligation bonds to fund the acquisition of large vehicles and equipment. These would be your trash trucks, your trash packers. These things are about $250,000 a piece. And this is for the items that were budgeted for in the fiscal 18 budget, and a couple items that were budgeted for in the fiscal 19 budget. The second part of this is a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of the award of issuance, sale, and award of the general obligation public improvement bonds. Working with our financial advisors, Davenport and Company, the town issued an RFP, request for proposals, back in April, and received 13 responses, which is tremendous, and ultimately went with a 7-year financing at an all-in interest rate of an all-in cost of 3.72%. That is about $163,000 per year in debt service, all of which has been budgeted for. This loan is fully prepayable without penalty, and so it was definitely a great deal for the town, and I definitely recommend passing these two items.
Are there questions from council? Okay, so this is a public hearing. We will call for comments from the audience. Once again, rules are the same. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak? Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing and move to council level for discussion and action. Mr. McKenna.
Madam Mayor, I move passage of Ordinance 18-0-18.
Second.
We have is this a motion to adopt Ordinance 18-018 and Resolution 18G30 together?
Yes.
Okay, just
Sorry
to
for
clarify.
that.
That's
Yep.
okay. Okay, that was a motion to approve both of those items made by Mr. McKenna, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Is there discussion on the motion? Yes, sir. Yeah,
just real quick, I had a really good conversation about this during our work session last week, and was really impressed with the presentation. The thing that's interesting, too, is the difference between the 5-year and the 7-year interest rate was 7 bips or 7 basis points. which if you look at the rate of inflation over those 2 years, it actually, it would be cheaper to actually get the 7-year plan versus the 5-year plan, just based upon your average inflation rate over the past 10 years has been 1.63%. So I was very happy that we decided to do this, and I'm very excited because, again, in a situation like this, if you look at the interest rates versus everything else, we're borrowing money at a very low rate, and I think it has a lot to do with the financial stewardship that we've had in the past 20, 30 years. So thank you to previous councils. Thank you for everybody that's been working on this, and thank you, Town of Herndon, for being vigilant with us to make sure we're doing our jobs. Thanks.
Thank you. Other discussion on the motion?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I mean, I think what we continue to see over the last couple of years is just the really reviewing lots of our policies, our ordinances, and whether we're making good fiscal decisions, particularly. There's been a lot of great improvements in just reviewing that, and a lot of good education about rates and why we're leasing versus not. So thank you for that discussion last week and for putting this forward.
Thank you. Other discussion? Okay. So seeing none, I will call the question, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll. I meant to remind everyone it's a roll call vote. Yep. So thank you, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedrichs.
Yes.
Councilmember McKenna.
Yes.
Councilmember Olin.
Yes.
Mayor Merkel.
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. Next up is Resolution 18G24 to authorize VDOT to proceed with the detailed design phase of the East Spring Street Widening and Improvements Project and transmittal of related town comments, Town Plan number 17-08. This public hearing was continued from May 22nd to allow for additional discussion at our work session last week, and we have received additional comments on this item, which have been entered into the record. I will open the public hearing and recognize Lisa Gillerin for the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. As you stated, this is a resolution authorizing VDOT to proceed with detailed design of the East Spring Street widening and improvements. The resolution directs VDOT to move forward, and it includes several directives from the Town Council concerning comments that the Town Council has for what the final engineering should include. During the work session, we discussed this in depth with RK&K's transportation consultant. And this evening, what I will do is I will go through those comments that are included in the resolution, which first is directing VDOT to defer closure of the easternmost entrance, which is actually shown on this plan as having been closed, but it is to remain open, and that's the easternmost entrance exit into the development, and it's located approximately where you see the cursor here. So that would remain open. Traffic volume on until one of these events. Traffic volume on East Spring Street exceeds 44,000 vehicles. That would be the anticipated average daily count in 2035, so that's quite a few years out. Or Fairbrook Drive is connected to Sunset Business Park through an interparcel connection. So this entrance will stay open until one or the other of those situations occurs. The second one is to allow U-turns. It's number 3 here, but it's actually the second directive. Allow U-turns at the intersection of Herndon Parkway and Spring Street, except during the peak commuting hours between, and this is a slight change, between 3:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. as determined by the traffic volume analysis, realizing that during the construction of East Eldon Street, additional traffic volumes may require temporary adjustments to this condition. What we're discussing with this particular direction is that vehicles that are turning left from westbound Spring Street, turning left onto the Herndon Parkway, that those vehicles would be able to do a U-turn to return to the entrance to Sunset Business Park. As you heard from the consultant last week, the reason originally that it was recommended there not be any U-turns was due to the fact that if I can get the cursor, there it is due to the fact that when U-turns are allowed, then free flow right turns onto eastbound Spring Street from the Herndon Parkway cannot be allowed. And because of that, that impacts the length of the queues along the Herndon Parkway, which adds to congestion. Congestion then can add to safety concerns. So the consultants did look at the traffic data, and they determined that I'll call it the peak of the peak concern would be between 3:30 and 6:30 p.m. And so...
is that Monday through Friday or every day?
Actually, this condition does not state which, but I would assume, just knowing something about traffic volumes, that that would be weekdays. So that is something that if you wish to direct staff to state that it's only weekdays, we can add that. As you know, part of the concern has been that congestion relief and safety are the key factors in the funding of this project. Over 50% of the cost of this project is covered by the Smart Scale funding, which is directly related to congestion and safety. And we've not been able to obtain any guarantees from the Virginia Department of Transportation regarding whether or not the allowing U-turns all the time would jeopardize that funding. And so that is part of the reason why the staff is still recommending some limitations on those U-turns. I would think, though, that the weekends, it probably you would not have the exact same trip generation during those periods. So that would be something that'd probably be safe to add. Now, the next one is to modify the circle within the public right-of-way entrance into the Sunset Business Park. We sometimes call it the cul-de-sac street, the circle. People refer to it in different ways because it doesn't have a name, and we'll get to that a little later in the discussion. But to modify that circle element so that it's easier for trucks to be able to maneuver through there into the Sunset Business Park. Now, in addition to providing VDOT with those directives, this resolution also directs the town manager to pursue some actions as well. And that includes to pursue a separately funded ancillary project to include evaluation and possible reconfiguration of the existing Herndon Parkway entrance to Sunset Business Park and abutting properties such that the new project is implemented concurrent with the East Spring Street widening and improvement project if financially feasible. Now, we've already started to study that, and the town's transportation consultants have started to look at some possible reconfigurations. So that, I'll let you know, is already underway in very early stages. Second is to seek funding for installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of the Herndon Parkway and the traffic circle entrance to Sunset Business Park and abutting parcels, dependent upon a finding that such action is technically advisable. And so that would entail the staff finding some funding stream for a signal. Cost of signals is now estimated to be about $500,000. So we would need to look to some funding sources, and that's something that the staff's already considering and looking into. We haven't identified one yet, but we're continuing to look. 3 is officially named the public right-of-way, which provides access from the Herndon Parkway to the Sunset Business Park and abutting parcels. Good news is that's free. There's no funding involved. But we do need to, any name that is proposed, we do need to clear that with Fairfax County, particularly the 911 service. But right now, staff is looking at some possible names that would include Sunset in the name. So Sunset Park. I'm not certain that we can use Drive because of the fact that there's already a Sunset Drive which comes off of Spring Street, but we will check with Fairfax County to see what options are available. And 4, explore ways to improve signage for Sunset Business Park along the Herndon Parkway and Spring Street that meets zoning and other standards, regulations, and policies. This is something where we would be looking at perhaps some public sign improvements, what we might be able to achieve. We would also be happy to work with Sunset Business Park to see if there are any suggestions that we might be able to give them for private signs and how they might improve those signs or find a secondary location. One of the things we're going to look at is to find out if there's some way we can help them to perhaps have a sign along the Herndon Parkway at the street that currently has no name. And that is really this resolution in a nutshell. And I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Ms. Friedrichs.
This isn't so much as a question, but a lot of our discussion has centered around the cost and how we would lose funding from VDOT for various different amendments. But could we just clarify for people who may not be as familiar with it as we are, why are we doing this project? I mean, it seems to me that there's a need to do it, not just to save the money.
Yes, absolutely. This project has quite a long history, as most of the transportation projects in town do. It takes quite a while to go through the early stages. The first step that occurred that led to this project was the identification of the median opening at the entrance to the Sunset Business Park being a problem. It's a problem from 2 standpoints. One, congestion, particularly since it's very close to the Fairfax County Parkway. Second, it is also a problem from a standpoint of accidents. As you heard last week from the transportation consultant, there are a history of accidents at that median, and they tend along this segment of roadway at that median cut is where you tend to see the more significant accidents. Now, that issue has been on the books, I'll say, of the town for years. There have been several special exceptions that have come through for businesses in the Sunset Business Park. There have been some other plans, such as the hotel, where each time that happens and we look at transportation in and out of the business park, staff has mentioned to the town councils, various town councils over the years, that this is a problem that years ago, and I'm not certain which plan it was tied to at this point, the need to close that median was discussed. And each time it's been decided to extend that opening out a little longer. What's happened now is traffic volumes continue to build. We also are projecting additional traffic volumes with the opening of the metro, with the regional growth that we have in the area, and also with the town's own growth in the metro area. And during the metro study, the consultant looked at several different roadway improvements that would need to be made. And many of the aspects that you see in this plan before you this evening reflect those roadway improvements that were identified during the metro area study as being needed. So this has really been a project that's been building over quite a number of years. And the staff was able to find money for it. This is money from the state, it's grant money. And the money was granted to us because of the fact that it was improving safety, it was improving congestion. And so that's a little bit of the history.
Yeah. So what you're saying is there's a lot of traffic accidents and it backs all the way up into Reston. So we have to do this. It's not optional, really?
It's really not optional. Okay. There are safety concerns there today. There are congestion concerns there today. And we know that as we go out, we see additional development in town and outside of town, that those issues are just going to continue to grow. And the timing is, we don't know exactly when the peak of the development will be, but we do know we've got significant issues today, and they are going to be growing. And one of the statements we've heard is this is just about people from outside of town. The congestion is from people outside of town. But that's not what the study showed. That's not what the metro area plan, the town's metro area plan showed, that it's both for our own residents, it's for the future businesses, the future residents, as well as us having to do our fair share for the regional traffic as well.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I can also
Yes,
clarify
sir.
one other point about that, too. We have an East Eldon Street project coming up in a few years as well. And when that gets underway, it's going to put more pressure on that intersection as well. So we need to have this done in front of that improvement. That's another reason why this is very important to do at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for staff? Okay. So this is a public hearing. And I know there's a lot of interest in this one, so I'll call from comments from the audience. Up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Jeff Fairfield. I'm at 459 Herndon Parkway. And this evening I'm appearing as the president of the Condo Association at 459 Herndon Parkway. Fortunately, we had previously scheduled our quarterly meeting for this morning. So we were able to put this project on the agenda, and we discussed it at some length. And I actually have a statement for the record on behalf of the association, which I would offer to the clerk when I'm completed with my remarks. But the bottom line is that we unanimously voted to request the council to endorse and adopt the resolution that's before you this evening, subject to the guidance that's in the resolution. And in particular, we want to emphasize the importance that we attach to directing the town manager to pursue this auxiliary project to focus on the front entrance off of Herndon Parkway. I would say probably 80% of the trips, ingress and egress to our office building, come through that front entrance. And there are even occasions today when there is a bottleneck, a queue of 4 or 5 cars trying to get out at night, particularly to make a left-hand turn onto Herndon Parkway. So I think the time has arrived for a wholesale and fresh relook at the design of that intersection. Perhaps the time for the traffic circle has passed, and we need something a little more 21st century. I want to thank Councilman McKenna for coming out and looking at the site condition yesterday. So we're on board. We want to assist. We hope staff will allow us to have some input as this auxiliary project advances. But I can certainly attest to the need for these East Spring Street improvements. This very evening, I was going westbound on Spring Street from the Reston Y, and it was backed up from the Y all the way to the intersection. So it's only going to get worse. So I would offer this statement for the record.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Mitchell, followed by Mr. Downer.
Steve Mitchell, 1291 Monroe Street. I concur with everything that Jeff has just said. Also, I remember several years ago addressing the council, I don't know which one it was, when we were talking about Fairbrook Drive extension and everything, and we had the motels and all the 20-story buildings are going to go up by the metro and everything, and we all are aware that Fairbrook Business Drive extension is going to come on at some point in time. I pointed out to that council at that time that that we should put that as a priority to have built, because I think as a town, I know as a private developer, we can make public improvements and then come back at a later date and be reimbursed by the people who use it. I'm sure that same type of mechanism exists with the town's ability to fund this project. You might need to put the seed money in, but eventually the town will get the money back. And what I'm mostly referring to is at the intersection coming off the Parkway, where Fairbrook Business Drive extension would come through. We don't have to develop all Fairbrook Business right now. From what I'm understanding with the purview of the town manager right now, we could just possibly bring it in 50 feet, which would then allow cars to turn right into the parking lot of that, and then we could safely close off the medium as we're going to do anyway, and we wouldn't have to incur the U-turn. It would require a light, but I think you would see a lot better traffic movement. Obviously, it would have to be studied a little bit, but I think that's an increment thing to help better the intersection, help relieve some traffic, because at some point in time, that road is going to be built, and we need to be thinking about that because it is going to happen. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Downer.
Madam Mayor, members of Town Council. My name is Richard Downer, and I live at 815 Branch Drive, Herndon, Virginia, number 308. I got Mr. McKenna and several other people, Mr. Fairfield, and one of the members of the board also, of that board, there. And for full disclosure, I have, my wife and I have a minor interest, minor interest in 269 Sunset Park Drive, the ownership of that. And also, I'm on the board of the Next Stop Theater Company, which used to be called, and we appreciate the shout out for that, current play, Eldon Street Players. One of the reasons that I've been involved in for so long is trying to get a name for that street. And I personally, we kind of tossed around the idea the other day, and I think Mr. McKenna has shared the email with you all. That's something that can be done immediately, because it's going to take time to change all those Google and all those things, but there literally is, when you're directing somebody in, you can't, you turn at the no-name cul-de-sac. We're blessed, the town is blessed to have a very wide entrance to that building, to that area. And basically what you're going to do is create a second look, a new primary turn-in for Sunset Business Park. And if at all possible, I would like the staff to see if they couldn't just extend Sunset Business Park, the drive, to make an L, and basically come out at that point on Herndon Parkway. It makes sense. All the buildings, Master Lee's building and all the ones that Jeff represents, all take a Herndon Parkway address. That needs to be cleared up, because somewhere along the line, somebody in town staff said, and I think incorrectly, that they'll all have to change their names. They'll change their street address. Well, that would just be horrendous and probably kill the deal, very frankly. But anyway, those are things that I think you all can do and start immediately, get cleared up with the town staff. And I'm glad that they're working on that too. The cul-de-sac, when our discussion the other morning was the fact that there is sufficient entranceway to make it happen, the intersection happen. There's room, or we need to plan for a street light there at some point in time, whenever that is practical. I know VIOT has some requirements for counts to be a certain height. And also, let's see, all of this needs to be done and programmed so that the businesses have received as little impact as possible when this construction all starts, so that basically you can already start the turns in there. In fact, that's the only way my wife and I come and go from that. Yep. And yes, I see the red light. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this item? You can bring it with you if you want. Make yourself at home.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I've spoken before you at least a couple times on this issue. I think it's safe to say I'm more impacted by this project.
Excuse me, could I have your name and address, sir, please, for the record?
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you.
Mark Bredesen. I'm the owner of Autoscandia, 134 Spring Street, units 265 and 291 in the Sunset Business Park, and I'm also a member of the master board for the Condo Association.
Thank you.
For the Sunset Condo Association. I think it's safe to say that I'm affected more than any other individual by this project. I'm affected with my properties in the Sunset Business Park, and I'm also affected my business Autoscandia on the opposite side of Spring Street. I moved to the Sunset Business Park in 1983. The Nahazels ran the park at that time. They spoke on my behalf in front of the council asking that they grant an exception to allow auto repair at the Sunset Business Park. That use has been grandfathered in. I went to high school. I went to Herndon High School in the 70s. I consider myself a resident of the town, although I've never been fortunate enough to live in the town. I also consider myself a part of the Sunset Business Park family. There are many owners there. I have one of the business owners is actually a current employee of mine. Several of the property owners there I've known since 1983. Some of them run their small businesses there, and they struggle. They constantly struggle, and I can tell you the reason they're not here tonight is because they struggle. Some of them have a schedule that doesn't permit them to come to these late evening meetings. Some of them, their health won't permit it. I know that the owner of the Metro Cafeteria, I've known him, I've seen his children grow up. I know that he vested his entire future on the fact that he fronts on Spring Street. I know that half of his customers enter that business park and get to his restaurant through the current primary entrance to the park. There are many other businesses that will be impacted by the closure of the median. I've accepted the fact that the median closure is inevitable. I support all of the other issues that were discussed tonight, including the light on Herndon Parkway. But I think it's important that this project not pick winners and losers, and I feel that there will be losers in the current resolution. The losers will be my business, the losers will be the Marriott, the losers will be all of the businesses facing Spring Street and the Sunset Business Park. I don't think this is necessary. I don't think limiting the U-turn to their peak business hours in the evening, restricting the U-turns during the peak business hours in the evening is a solution. I've been making U-turns now for the better part of 35 years on Spring Street, and I can tell you that they don't cause accidents. They're very slow, they're done very thoughtfully, and I have never had any instance where someone has crossed my path while making a U-turn. It's very evident to people that you're making the U-turn. It's evident to pedestrians. It's evident to anyone who potentially is turning into your path. I'm speaking here representing three groups.
I understand.
am I able to continue? Or?
If you can wrap it up, yes, sir.
All right. I'll just simply say that we're talking about Fairfield Drive, which is in the future. We're talking about a light, which is in the future. I would recommend that you allow the U-turns unrestricted until some point in the future. The traffic volume is not at the level now where I think this needs to be restricted, but the damages to the businesses that will be affected by this will be immediate. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this item? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing and move to council level for discussion and action. And if there is a motion to approve, it would be with the revisions noted in the agenda.
Madam Mayor,
yes.
I move approval of Resolution 18-6-24 with the amendments as noted earlier.
I will second that.
I'm sorry, did you say 6? It should be G.
I was confused.
18G24?
18G24, yes, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. So there's a motion to approve Resolution 18G24 with the revisions noted in the agenda, made by Ms. Friedrich, seconded by Mr. McKenna. Discussion on the motion.
I think we're all really deeply concerned about this business park because I don't think there's one of us here on the dais that doesn't have a friend who owns a business in there, and it is just a delightful place to go. We would not like to see anything happen to that business park or Auto Scandia. If we don't limit the U-turns, we potentially lose quite a lot of money. I forget how much it is, but it's a significant amount of money, and that will raise people's taxes. So not that that's impossible, but to give up that amount of money when we could conceivably come up with something better in the meantime, I don't think is worth it. I do believe that our staff is very concerned about this and will work their hardest to make sure that the signage is top notch. That you all have every opportunity to thrive in that location because that is a great location, and we don't want to mess up your business any more than you want us to. So, thank you,
Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone who met with me over the past few days, even a few weeks. And I understand your plight about winners and losers. I said it last time on a dais. The reason why I ran for council back when I was 24 was because my parents' business was a loser. They, the downtown district, they didn't pave the road for 8 months, and my parents were taking home about $17 a day. And I said, enough's enough. I will tell you that I was not satisfied with the resolution as was in the public hearing. I thought we could do better, and I thank staff and also the state for amending that and working some things out. I also want to thank Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Furtada, and Mr. Furtada and Mr. Downer. Spent my lunch hour on Monday going over the different things and got a real sense of what that is and what's going on. But there's a lot of things at play here. It's not just Reston. We have the metro. I mean, you go quarter tick to the south and you got the metro entrance, and we have to be cognizant of that. It's not perfect, but I will tell you that I have full faith in the town manager and staff to work with you, and I can tell you, I'm willing to do what I have to do if you need me down there. Even if I don't, November happens and I don't get reelected, I'll make sure, even as a private citizen, I'll be on your side. So I'm satisfied with this. Not saying I'm completely happy with it, but based upon the evidence, these are things I don't like to do, but the evidence is preponderance in regards to making this deal go through, so I'm for it. And I thank everyone for their time and assistance, and I thank you for coming to the meetings and also emailing us and letting us know how you feel. It really matters, and it truly is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments on this, Madam Vice Mayor?
Yes, I first have a point of or a question regarding the ordinance. So given what Ms. Gillerin talked about with it should say Monday through Friday, is that being adjusted? Or do we have to do a substitute motion or a...
It's funny you should say that. I just received an email from Lisa a few seconds ago saying it excludes weekends.
It does already have that in there.
Excludes
weekends. Okay. And holidays? I'm assuming excludes weekends and holidays.
We believe so.
Holidays would be either a weekday or a weekend. Holidays wouldn't.
But like if a holiday's on a Wednesday, it should be excluded, right? If we're going to say it's Monday through Friday, that's what I'm thinking.
It doesn't. I'm not sure exactly what it says, but Ms. Gillerin's going to tell us if you would allow that.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. What?
Can Ms. Gillerin tell us?
Okay.
I'm afraid you might create a problem if you say holiday. First off, you've got to put it up on the sign. And I've known that different places consider different holidays to different people. And what you don't want at an intersection is to add an additional degree of confusion. Because somebody may think, today's a holiday, it's Flag Day, and that hasn't changed the traffic signal. So I'd be concerned about the terminology holiday.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify. So it is in there Monday through Friday, not weekends. And I just want to add to this. I think this is a great example of a lot of community and government collaboration. I do feel like we've come to the best solution we could under the circumstances. I do know it's not ideal. I do think we advocated and there was a lot of commentary and discussion with our businesses, particularly those businesses that are most affected by this. So I'm comfortable with this. I know it's not ideal. I know the U-turn option is not, having a U-turn limitation at any point in the day is not ideal. We talked about that extensively with the DOT representative who was at our work session last week. And just to add on to what Ms. Friedrichs was saying, the challenge for us is we do risk about $6 million in funding if it's not guaranteed. He couldn't say we definitely won't approve it if you add that language, but there is risk for us if we add that we want it to be unrestricted U-turn, that DOT could kind of fuss with us on that. There's also the potential or the hope that if we limit that, if we list it this way tonight, if we proceed with it as stated, because that won't go into place until the project is done, that there could be a potential to review that once the project is over, right? And you really assess, hey, this isn't an issue. And so I think there's potentially a second chance at this for that 3-hour window. So we even reduced it because it was a 4-hour window, right? We did keep on them about that. And so that's why I feel like this is kind of the best compromise we're going to get. And again, given the significance and the importance of this project, it does feel like we're at the point where we do need to move this forward. Let's see. Also related to U-turns, I mean, the other discussion with DOT was not so much that they're accident prone as much as they do just slow down the traffic. So that was part of it as well, of just that keeping the traffic flowing during that heavy time when it is, like Mr. Fairfield said, backed up quite a bit, that you have 2 left turning lanes move faster than one potential U-turn and 1 left turning lane, was part of the reason for that time limitation. Certainly, improving the other intersection, what we'll call the circle intersection closer to Next Stop Theater, has been a critical part of improving this project and access to the park. I know that doesn't help Marriott and Autoscandia, but certainly for that piece of the of getting into the park, and the adding a name, et cetera, because that is a bit confusing. So I do think this has brought up a lot of good ideas and examples of how to make this better. One thing that I would love to just plant or consider, see if Sunset Business Park would consider is adjusting the name slightly, because I think Sunset Business Park does imply, I think that's that's been the name for a long time. And so maybe it's an opportunity with this change that there are so many cool businesses in there, and arts communities, right? And our theater and restaurants and bakeries and textiles. So maybe there's an opportunity to adjust that. I know that's outside of my role. I just thought I would mention that. We had the one moment of levity last week was when we did talk about the street with no name, which of course made me start thinking about the U2 song, and I recommended Baker Street because that's also a good song, and Fascination Street. We had all sorts of good ideas for you if you want our ideas, but I'll just add some levity to that. But in all seriousness, though, I do feel comfortable with what we've come up with, and I appreciate so much with the collaboration of the business owners that are most directly impacted by this. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. Olam.
I've been hearing these discussions for a long time. I've frequented that park for over 25 years, and I was really happy when I figured out how I could exit onto the parkway so I didn't have to make the left-hand turn, because it's a little dicey trying to make the left-hand turn coming back. And because I know it's coming, I usually try to come in that way now just to get myself in the habit. Old habits die hard. I know when we did and it's been probably over 8, probably closer to 10 years that they redid the entrance at the post office, and they put a median there because they had people turning where the Walgreens is into the parking lot, and it was causing a lot of jam ups, and they put the median in, and then everyone's doing the U-turn, and we were having wrecks, and so then they just changed the whole entrance and exit. And just 3 weeks ago, someone came in the exit through again. I mean, it's been over 10 years, and people still, their old habits die hard. So I know change is hard, but I think for the safety reason, and I am confident that we want this center to thrive. I certainly want the businesses that I frequent to be there 5 years from now. So as a citizen in Herndon that frequents that, whether I'm on the council or not, I will be speaking up to make sure we can do things that can accommodate once the changes are done.
Thank you. Other comments? I concur with my colleagues, and I know the rebranding idea, we have, the Vice Mayor and I have talked about how the Sunset Business Park does not at all evoke what's going on in there. So food for thought. I do appreciate the dialogue and the willingness to meet with the business owners and trying to get to a resolution that is least harmful for most people. So with that, I will call the question on the motion, which was made by Ms. Friedrichs and seconded by Mr. McKenna. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed. Finally, we are to our one general item, which is Resolution 18G31 to enter into a Smart Cities Pilot Project Plan Agreement. And I will recognize the town manager for this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to Mrs. Downer at home, hopefully you're hearing this and we can answer all of your questions. What you have before you this evening is the authorization to enter into a pilot agreement with Vivacity, which is a subsidiary of Columbia Capital. The county is working with Columbia Capital on smart cities implementations elsewhere in the county, and they were looking for a place in the county that had 3 considerations. One was more of a dense, condensed, urbanized setting. The second was a jurisdiction that owned their own lights, their own light poles in this area. And the third was access to the fiber they need to backhaul the smart poles that are ultimately going to go in. And as in my conversations with the county, it seemed like we had all 3 of those things at the same time. So what you have here before you tonight is a 2-year pilot where Vivacity will design, engineer, construct, and manage the integrated fiber optic cable and wireless network connected to LED lights. They will be putting in they will replace 10 existing street light poles with LED smart poles. They will then retrofit 30 additional existing street lights in the downtown with LED light fixtures. The smart poles will have the capability for a Wi-Fi network in the area that they serve. We will have an electric vehicle charging station. Most probably on Lynn Street. There will be other various Internet of Things sensors looking for pedestrian and bike traffic on the bike path and those elements. We will be gathering the data. We'll be analyzing the data. The primary data that we'll be looking at is the cost savings of LED lights and the dynamic dimming capabilities that come with the automatic light sensors. These things I think will be critical as we examine LED lighting in the future, especially as the new VEPCO contract is coming online with the state, and there will be new opportunities for us to implement LED lights elsewhere in town. I think the data we'll derive from this pilot will be critical. Some of the other features, it will improve mobile coverage in the downtown. We will be using the blue light emergency calling features that you often see on college campuses. There will be, we'll get a better understanding of maintenance, response times, and the reductions in costs, as I said earlier. It's going to improve visitor experience by providing free Wi-Fi. We'll get a better, more accurate data on pedestrian flow, bike flow in the downtown. And most importantly, we'll understand the cost and usage of the electric vehicle charging stations. We'll be analyzing the data monthly with Vivacity. That they will be sharing the data with us. And they will hopefully, if all goes well, and they have to go through every governmental process to begin construction, we're looking at a December 31st, 2018 completion, and the initial pilot will end December 31st, 2020. At the end of the pilot, three things can happen. We can have them pull it out and restore it back to where it was. We can look at potentially extending the leases beyond that point, or the third option is we can buy at a depreciated cost those features and just keep them in our inventory. The monthly fee will be less than with the cost savings will be on the LED lights at about $15 per month on each smart pole and $5.40 per month on each LED bulb. This money has already been appropriated as part of our electricity budget, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions for Mr. Ashton? We can't call it a smart town. Just kidding.
Well, they brought that to us, so we can negotiate if you want.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
We can call it.
Are there any questions? Well, then I would love to make the motion to pass this resolution to enter into this agreement.
Second.
Third.
So there's a motion to approve made by the chair, seconded by the vice mayor, and thirded by Councilmember Friedrichs. Discussion on the motion, anyone? What piece?
No.
Oh. Mr. McKenna, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, just a couple things. First thing, I'm very excited about the Wi-Fi component because the first thing I asked Ms. Yates when I got on council was I wanted to look at the cable contracts because I want to have the ability to have Wi-Fi in a downtown area. So I think this is a nice little added bonus, and cable contracts don't come up for another 6 years, so I couldn't do anything about that. And the other thing about the LED lights, I actually know something about this. I used to work at Granger in Fairfax County Schools, was one of my clients, and they used 4 PL16s. I'll never forget because they bought $1 million in light bulbs a year from me. They're fluorescent lights. I did a analysis for them at all their schools in regards to their purchasing, and even though the lights were 7 times the cost of the lights that they were purchasing, they would break even about 2.6 years based upon the usage, because instead of using a 80-watt bulb, which is soft white, the technology went from, in a matter of a year, actually went from 23 watts down to 12. So if you do the math in regards to electricity, obviously the broader the spectrum, the cheaper the cost. But I can tell you that I'm very excited about this, not just from, we're moving forward on a sustainability issue, which we passed in December, but economically, if you look at this long term, this is, to me, a win-win situation. And the other thing, too, is fluorescent lights also have mercury, and there's you have to dispose of them in a hazardous way, whereas LED lights don't have that. So you can take away that component of disposal as well. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Other discussion? Ms. Vice Mayor.
I'll just add, I'm just super excited. Herndon should be a town of innovation, and this is a great example of that. Certainly the Wi-Fi and, of course, the energy savings, and fits with our sustainability vision. So thank you for that.
Other comments? Ms. Olam, followed by Ms. Friedrichs.
Yes, I am definitely excited, especially about the Wi-Fi aspect, and I know that's one of the things in the survey that our businesses in town are not too happy with their accessibility to Wi-Fi. So maybe once this gets going, maybe we can help them out and do some heavier negotiating with our cable 2 contractors.
Thank you, Ms. Friedrichs.
I was actually going to. Am I on? I was actually going to say something very similar to what Councilmember Olam said. We recently had a survey where people said, we're not quaint enough, and we're not modern enough, and we're not this, and we're not that. Well, I think having smart cities in our historic downtown makes us kind of quaint and modern at the same time. So I love this, which is why I thirded it, and I support it.
Thank you. I agree. This is the type of thing that, because we are small, we can be nimble, we can jump on something like this. This is also a testament to our good relationship with Fairfax County, because if we had not been fostering that over the years, I don't think they would have given us the call. So super excited to get started, and Joe Plummer is about to jump out of his seat out there, so let's get going. So with that, I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, that motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes a bunch of appointments, including Sherry Blanton, who has sat through this entire meeting, who will be a part of our PBAC committee?
Yay.
So, second.
All right, you guys are fast. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. And that concludes our agenda this evening.
Madam Mayor, seeing no other business, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and we stand adjourned at 8:54 p.m. And thank you for dealing with my voice. I made it. Woo.